People will say, well, I didn't have time to reapply. I put your sunscreen on before my training or before my race, and it lasted me the whole time. Wear your protective clothing. Number one, that cuts down on the surface area that you have to apply. And with the wiggling kids who want to just get out to play right away, it's hard to do a full body application. So I would say half the time my kids are wearing hats, but they're always wearing their sun shirts. And then buy a high quality zinc oxide sunscreen. Zinc is actually the most effective sunscreen.
Today, I am so honored to have Tatyana Cerullo here with us, and we are going to talk about outside time. This is one of those things like eggs. Eggs are good for you. Eggs are going to kill you. Butter's going to kill you. Wait, butter's good for you. Oh, we have to go outside. No, don't go outside. The sun will kill you. No, go outside. The sun's good for you. It feels like life is crazy, and Tatyana is both an attorney and a sunscreen formulator. She has a really interesting background, and I'm super pumped to have her here today. So welcome, Tatyana.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk, about kids' health, keeping our kids healthy, and what do we really need? Do we need to hide our kids from the sun, embrace the sun, or somewhere in between? So let me introduce you guys to Tatyana really quickly. As I mentioned, she's an attorney. She lives in Hawaii. She's a former triathlete, formulated Kokua Sunscreen with her husband, and most importantly, mom of two lovely children ages 4 and 7. Now, she and her husband founded Kokua Suncare just a few years ago in 2017, and they are fervent and amazing advocates of reef safety and human health when it comes to what we put on our skin to protect us from the sun, because that's where we hear all those other messages, right? We don't want to put those endocrine disruptors on our skin because we don't want our kids growing extra legs. I'm exaggerating, of course, but sometimes social media makes life feel that way. So let's bring a little sanity to the discussion and reality, because we don't want to just put our heads in the sand, moms, and say, well, whatever, like it can't hurt my kids, because unfortunately some things do. So again, welcome, Tatyana, from the sunny Hawaii.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha to you too. So now you are not Native Hawaiian, right? You and your husband both have skin that can burn.
Yes, we have European descent. Yes. And both of our skin is fair.
Yeah. So what happened? But you live in Hawaii, lots of sun. What happened in your life that brought you to kind of your current sun protection philosophy?
Any of us, our generation moms that grew up with chemical sunscreens. And just from experience, I realized that this stuff doesn't really work. And I'm still getting burned. My eyes are stinging. The stuff smells awful and it stays with you all day. So you wonder what chemicals are in there making that happen. And I just kind of was thinking, well, okay, I guess there's no other options. And I guess sort of when I went to law school, I started asking more questions about just life in general, big business, and what is really their main priority. And you realize when you're in corporate law class that big industry, really their priority is money for their shareholders and not the health of your children or the environment. And then you learn about other laws and rules, and really big industry is not being regulated. They are just putting out there whatever makes them money, and then they're marketing to you so that you think, oh, this is really healthy, this is really good for me, oh, I love this smell, even though it's super toxic or whatever. So I just started to ask those questions, and then I was tossing out everything in my bathroom cabinet. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I can't pronounce that. I'm just going to make my own moisturizer, and I'm going to look up ingredients. And I just started to get very concerned that what's out there is not really necessarily good for me. So that kind of started me thinking about healthier products, healthier cleaning products, healthier food, healthier personal care products.
Mm-hmm. And you weren't a mom yet at this time, right? A lot of us come to those realizations because of our kids, but how interesting that your pathway was through the law and sort of seeing the reality of what goes on behind marketing and becoming a bit jaded.
Yes, exactly. And so then I moved out to Hawaii, and I was doing triathlon. I was training a lot. I was just out swimming, biking, running, hiking, whatever, all the fun stuff there is to do in Hawaii. And I knew I didn't want the chemical sunscreens anymore. And so I would go to the natural food store and I literally tried every single sunscreen available.
I know the
Uh,
feeling.
yeah, of course. And I really wasn't happy with what options were out there at the time. I just, I thought, okay, well, this feels better on the skin. It's not stinging like the chemicals, but it's greasy, it's sticky, and gosh, I don't even know if it's staying on my skin. It looks like it's just, sliding off. And also sometimes I would find that the natural sunscreens would separate, which would, for me, calls into question whether it's even the active ingredient, the zinc is even in there, dispersed throughout the whole formula so that it's giving you the SPF that you think you're getting. So I was very unhappy with that. And then I met my husband. He was sailing around the world on a catamaran with his father, and they had come through Hawaii, and we were sort of comparing notes about how we live and this and that. And he was telling me about his chemical sunscreens and how unhappy he was getting burned all the way around the world and his eyes stinging, and how his skin was just always red. Because on a boat, you can wear a hat and you can cover up, but there's all these reflective surfaces with the boat and the water. And so he just was getting it from all angles constantly. And he just said he was perpetually burned like a lobster. So, I introduced him to the natural sunscreens and he thought, well, this is great, but it's kind of goopy and sticky and gross. So I don't know. I think there's something here. Maybe we should start a sunscreen. And so we kind of started mixing sunscreen together at home. And, that also was not satisfactory because we're not chemists, we're not professional formulators. And then you realize that sunscreens are actually, um, not something that you can just mix up and sell at the farmer's market or use. You actually have to follow certain rules to make a sunscreen because sunscreens are considered to be drugs, over the
Mm-hmm.
counter drugs.
And now
So
this
we
is
learned.
to sell. Like if I made my own sunscreen,
Mhm.
that's okay. Although there's always that risk of not being quite assimilated exactly and knowing the SPF.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not against the law to make your own sunscreen and wear it. It's just that it's dangerous for you because you're not able to emulsify the active ingredient. You don't know if, unless you do special testing according to FDA protocol, whether it's actually the SPF that you think it might be.
Mm-hmm. Makes
So
sense.
it's
Yeah.
it's a very it's not something you should do yourself, actually. Yeah. So that's how we started on our road to formulate. And then as we found out, it was not easy.
Not just a homemade thing. Yeah. I read a piece of your husband's story, something about he had to stop wearing a certain sunscreen because it wasn't even safe for the boat, the material.
When he got to Hawaii, he worked on boats as crew for some tour companies, and they had a rule that you could not use chemical spray sunscreen because it would damage the marine plexiglass, which is that hard plastic. It would actually like bubble up or warp,
Yikes.
because of this chemical spray sunscreen. And he just came home and was like, gosh, I just can't believe that the very thing that we're supposed to be putting on our skin to protect us from the sun actually warps hard plastic. So there must be some disconnect here. This can't be right.
Yeah, yeah, that's super scary. I think I've said that too. Like it could melt the sunglasses off your face. How can we put it on our skin? But we
Right.
do get so much conflicting information these days. I mean, brands are marketing to us and they market in ways that feels like scientific data and it feels like information, if we're not
Mhm.
perfectly cued into the fact that we're just being sold to.
Right.
And there's all these articles and stories and last year when the Hawaii ban on oxybenzone came up, people were going, oh my goodness, now everyone's going to get sunburned and skin cancer will rise because clearly, there's no alternative. How did you decide what was safe for your family, and how does research back that up?
What I came to the conclusion about is that the chemicals out there, they absorb into your skin. And when you read about it, you understand that within 20 to 30 minutes, the chemicals are already in your blood and urine. And to me, you don't have to be a scientist to understand that that's it's a scary thought. And so I was looking for the mineral sunscreens, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. And what they do is they create a layer, like a physical barrier on your skin, and they deflect the light away from your skin instead of absorbing into it. So for me, that it sounded like that was healthier than having the chemicals go into my body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we started, was with the mineral sunscreens.
Sure. Yeah, makes total sense. Now, what about, I mean, some people are saying, oh, like you shouldn't wear sunscreen at all. You should just go out into the sun. And some would say, oh, like sunscreen or not, hide and run in the shade. Do you have any sort of balance in your family with the constant sun in Hawaii?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely we don't hide from the sun. We love to be outside. We actually don't do much screen time at all. We're like a no screen family. So we are outside enjoying nature all the time. We do have certain rules though. So we definitely embrace the sun. We don't hide it. We have to live. We have to have adventure. We have to be outside to find peace and to de-stress from life. So it's definitely not something that we stay away from. We just are smart about it. So my kids always have sun shirts. We just don't do bikinis and shirts off. It's like wearing a seatbelt or brushing your teeth. We just always have sun shirts and hats. And, the hats come off sometimes, but it's okay because it's really easy to apply to smaller areas. So we definitely apply to our faces and our forearms and back of our hands, and then a nice coat on the bottom of the legs and feet, and it's done. And when we do it as a habit, it becomes very easy, and the kids actually are really good about putting on sunscreen on their own. So every day before school, we actually have a tube and a pump bottle in the car. And they each put their hand out, and we put some sunscreen in their hand, and they rub it together and they pat it around, and they know how to apply their own sunscreen. And so it's a good habit that we're teaching them, just like cooking in the kitchen and, healthy food. It's just another habit that we've introduced to our children. And I'm pretty sure they'll take that with them into their adult lives as well, and they'll have much better skin than I do, and other people in my generation who either didn't wear any sunscreen or wore a lot of chemicals.
Huge thank you to our podcast sponsor today, Pact. That's PACT. And Pact makes some of the most just simple, beautiful, long-lasting, organic clothing for both kids and adults. My daughter and I both love shopping at Pact. I particularly enjoy their leggings, and she likes that their stuff comes in solid colors with no words on it, so she can just be plain and simple and not stand out. Of course, I also love that it's all organic material, because if you're going to have stuff touching your body all day long, it might as well not have toxins riding along. You can get 15% off your first order with the coupon code KitchenStewardship15. Just go to kidscookrealfood.com/pact, P-A-C-T, and use the coupon code KitchenStewardship15. Do enjoy looking around at Pact, where they have a wide variety of clothing, all the way from underwear to cute dresses. Yeah, I kind of like that even as a sunscreen formulator, you're saying, you know what, wear the shirts, wear the hats. Like
Yeah.
it's all part of your sun protection system, and it's habits to form. That's really, really, really important. Do
Mm.
your kids ever complain about it stinging their eyes? I mean, that's a huge, when I became a mom, that was just like kids at the pool were constantly screaming their faces off because they're like, no, no sunscreen, it stings.
Well, it depends on what sunscreen you're using. We wanted to make sure that our sunscreen does not sting your eyes. And so our active ingredient is 25% non-nano zinc oxide. And there's nothing else in there, the emulsifiers and the antioxidants that will cause any stinging or burning sensation. So you can actually put it on your face and even on your eyelids, and it will not sting or hurt at all. And so the kids, it's really easy to put it on when it's like that because they can literally just go like this.
Yeah.
And it takes a few seconds to get it rubbed in. If you don't have to go neatly around the eyes and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
good. I've found that most zinc oxide sunscreens don't sting the eyes. So we don't
mhm,
have that problem either. So that was kind of a trick
yeah.
question because I knew your answer. And yeah, I mean, Kokua is in one of my top recommended brands because it is so smooth. Like the consistency is amazing, especially for the high percentage zinc. Like a lot of times other brands will have to drop down to 18% or 12% zinc in order to have a smooth application. But you guys have done really well with your formulators.
Thank
Do you
you.
have, I mean, we're definitely going to obviously share the link to Kokua Suncare and even, any active coupon codes wherever we share this video. But if people can't find Kokua, or especially if you're like I'm going out to the beach right now, like, do you have like a quick 1 or 2 minute kind of cheat sheet, like what should people look for or look to avoid when they're thinking about buying sunscreen?
Yes, great question. Okay, so definitely like what we do, wear your protective clothing. Number one, that cuts down on the surface area that you have to apply. And with wiggling kids who want to just get out to play right away, it's hard to do a full body application. So definitely wear sun protective clothing and hats if most of the time. You don't have to be such a stickler. I mean, just do your best because kids will just throw them off and then run away. But so I would say half the time my kids are wearing hats, but they're always wearing their sun shirts. And then buy a high quality zinc oxide sunscreen. Zinc is actually the most effective sunscreen, even more than titanium dioxide. So look for zinc oxide, and this is getting a little complicated, but make sure it's non-nano, which means the particle size isn't so small. So look for a non-nano zinc oxide and apply and don't worry about the price. Your child's skin and your skin is so important. So you want to get a quality sunscreen. And if you're only applying to smaller areas of the body, then you're not using as much. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you're also looking for a higher percentage of zinc oxide, a lot of times you'll look at, if you look at the ingredients, you'll see, oh, okay, this is a mineral sunscreen. It's got zinc oxide in it, but you might find that it has less than 5% zinc in it. And so really you're not getting that much protection. So look for, we always look for 20% or higher. Ours is
Mm-hmm.
25% because we wanted to have the maximum amount of active ingredient that you could possibly have for maximum protection. The problem with that people find, well, actually the formulator finds, is that it's so hard to work with. So that was why it took us 5 years to formulate our sunscreen. It's because 25% zinc is quite a tall order to make it
Right.
actually go on smooth.
Sure, because no one wants to look like an alabaster statue just to be safe.
Exactly. Yeah, and you want it to actually feel good on your skin. You don't want to feel like you have an extra layer of something sitting there. It's very
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. So yeah.
Yes.
So I guess the cheat sheet would be with the clothing. Look for high quality sunscreen that has zinc oxide in it, and go out and have fun. And one last thing I would say is we do tend to go out earlier in the day or later in the afternoon and avoid the midday sun. But, everything in moderation too. If there's something going on, we're not gonna hide from the sun just because it's 12 noon. But, we might look for some shade. We always have a shade tent in the car, just in case we're somewhere where there isn't a whole lot of shade. And, we just try to be smart about how we enjoy nature and being under the
Absolutely.
sun.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for sure, I mean, I always want to remind parents that just because something says natural on the front or mineral on the front, you've got to read those ingredients because a lot of companies are putting in a little bit of zinc with all the other chemicals. So
Right.
you want that one active ingredient to be
Hmm.
zinc. And that's not, I mean, that's not hard to remember. You don't have to remember anything else. Just don't remember what you want to avoid. Remember what you want to look for.
What you're looking
Um,
for. Yes.
yes. So, what makes Kokua sunscreen in particular different than others on the market? Because there are now, blessedly, more and more and more that
Yes.
I would deem as acceptable that fit that like over 20% zinc,
Yes.
high quality ingredients. What makes Kokua different? What did you work so hard at for 5 years?
Okay, so we wanted the performance to be just smooth and clear like a moisturizing lotion. And we just could not find a 25% zinc formula that also went on smooth and clear like that. So that I would say stands makes us stand apart quite a bit, because you actually will rarely find 25% in there. And then if you do, then it's almost impossible that it goes on like a moisturizing lotion. So that's that. And then we also don't use beeswax. We use an extract of a pine resin that actually works better, and it just is lighter. It doesn't feel like beeswax, which is heavier and also kind of melts off. So our sunscreen stays on really well, and that's one reason why just putting it over your eyes and anywhere, just you don't have to worry about it running. It will stay in place, and so it lasts a long time. You can be out in extreme conditions and it's going to stay with you.
That's awesome. And I will definitely attest to that because we have tested over 100 mineral sunscreens. And first of all, the one way I know that Kokua was a big hit is that it was gone after the summer. And when you have 30 to choose from, we don't really finish anything. And so
Right.
it was very clear. I was like, oh my gosh, oh no, the Kokua is gone. So that told me right away, like people are grabbing that. My kids are grabbing it because they like it. They like the way it smells. They like the way it feels. And we knew that it worked. So that's really, really cool. And yes, very, very, very difficult to find that smooth feel. Do you find that you need to reapply with that same like 2 hour regimen that's recommended for chemical sunscreens?
No, but it always depends on what conditions you're in. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you're in the hot tropical sun from 8 a.m. to, sunset, by all means, apply as much as you feel like you need to apply. But we get a lot of feedback where, especially with in our athlete community, people will say, well, I didn't have time to reapply. I put your sunscreen on before my training or before my race, and it lasted me the whole time. And so, we can't legally say, oh yeah, you don't need to reapply. That's part of the regulations where, you must reapply every 2 hours. But um, really it does last, and in all, practical
Mm-hmm.
situation, it does last longer. And if you
Yeah.
do a good application, um, I think a lot of people put on less than most people put on less than they actually should, for the directions for use. But if you do a real application, then it's gonna stick with you for a long time.
Right. And one of the difference scientifically between the chemical actives and the zinc oxide is that the chemical actives are doing things, they're having chemical reactions, they're breaking down in the sun. And as you walk or swim or whatever, they're literally like changing their form and in some ways disappearing in a non-scientific term. But nothing happens to zinc oxide. It's gonna sit there until
Yes.
you wash it off in the shower or the pool. If you're
Don't rub it
swimming and
off. Yeah.
sweating, that's where it becomes a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I want to just add to what you said. So yeah, the chemicals, they are creating free radicals as they're breaking down, which is damaging your DNA. And we can go, we could talk all day about that. But um, even with zinc oxide, you have when the sun hits it, there's some oxidative stress, meaning some free radicals are formed, even with the, excuse me, even with the best sunscreen. So another thing that sets us apart too, just to add to that answer, is that we have 23 antioxidant ingredients in our formula, and there's science that shows that when you pre-treat the skin with antioxidants, and you have that along with the sunscreen, it will neutralize those free radicals and protect the skin so they're not getting the damage that the free radicals cause. So that's another really big thing that I think is so important in
Yes.
when you're looking for a sunscreen.
I agree. I was going to ask you to talk about those antioxidants. And you can hear even in the vocabulary the kind of oppositional nature of oxidative stress and antioxidants.
Hmm.
That's where, if a problem is going to happen, well, what do you want to do? You want to put the solution to the problem right in there with the problem. It's awesome. So, and
Yes,
I love that a
exactly.
lot of your antioxidants are sourced in Hawaii as well. You read the ingredients and you feel like you're eating a fruit salad almost.
Yeah, well, in Hawaii, all of the plants are subjected to the hot tropical sun, and they have to develop their own defense mechanisms to deal with that kind of, stress for the UV rays and the oxidative stress from the sun. So we sort of put that in our sunscreen to use the plant's own mechanism to protect itself, and then we can use it on our skin.
I
So
love that.
it's really a great combination to use the antioxidants from a place that actually is subjected to so much intense UV light.
Yeah, it makes sense just using the power of nature. I do love that. Now, I always like to end with a message of hope in this crazy busy world. So, what's your encouraging last word for all of us in the trenches wondering, do we let them out? Do we keep them in? What do we do?
Oh, definitely go out and enjoy life, have adventures, but just be smart about it. And yeah, I would say, little steps make a big difference. So, teach your kids good habits. You know, turn the water off when you're brushing your teeth. But, just little things can add up to a whole lot. And if you just use uh, a, a good quality sunscreen, you can make a huge difference in the health of your own skin and also in the environment. And it's a really easy thing to do, just to be aware of what you're putting on your skin.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all this good information, for this message of hope, and for just bringing a little bit of balance to the conversation. And I like to think, especially in a baby step like this, if you're switching from a product that probably is harming your kids and the environment to a product that isn't, it's almost like two steps because you're getting rid of something bad and adding something good that will protect them from, the harmful UV rays of the sun. So it's a good baby step. It's a twofer. And
Yeah.
anyway, I really appreciate your time today, Tatyana, and I know that you've helped a lot of parents out there.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Healthy Parenting Handbook podcast. I hope your brain feels fed and your heart feels full and that you feel connected, knowing that there are other parents on this journey with you. We're just trying to raise healthy, independent adults. And the next time you think, man, there is no handbook for this job. Now there is the Healthy Parenting Handbook. Look up the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please leave a review, my friends, as that helps other parents who need this information to find us. And of course, subscribe. That's a huge help. You can also look for our shorts as a reel on Instagram at Katie Kimball Kids Cook, or subscribe to the Healthy Parenting Handbook Shorts channel on YouTube. You'll get those bite-sized portions of healthy parenting advice.